On July 12, 2012, 4 hardy men would make their way to Guyana, South America. Little did we know that all PhDs were required to carry flowered suitcases. We came to understand this while staying in Little Guyana in New York City the night before departing for Guyana from JFK. Pastor Todd, Dr. John Hoover, Dan McAllister, and Pastor Eric would be the 4 men embarking on this adventure together. This isn't actually Guyana, but it was very pretty, and I thought we should include it. This here is actually Guyana. For those of you that don't know, Guyana is in the northern part of South America, squished in between Venezuela and Suriname. This part here, marked in red, is the part that we are focusing on our trip. Upon touching down at Chetty Jagan International Airport in Georgetown, Guyana, the humidity was noticeably much higher than from where we had come. Sean and Annette Aguirre met us at the airport and drove us back to Georgetown for a late dinner at New Thriving's Chinese restaurant. It was fortunate that we were able to get a seat with how crowded it was. We were all thankful to have a good meal after a long trip. The McAllisters' home, where the Gears are now staying, was to be our base of operations for the next few days. We stayed in the guest house, which is behind their actual house, near where you could hear the parrots and the dogs and other things going on all day and all night. No matter where we went, the food was great. People went out of their way to host us and to show us incredible hospitality. Brother Sean took us to the Port Morant Market, an old stomping ground for the McAllister family. Here they were able to once again experience the sights and the sounds and the smells of Guyana. Whether it be fresh fruits or fresh meat or a chicken that's fresh with its head cut off, fresh pineapple, or sweating out looking for a wedding ring. This was familiar for the McAllisters and enjoyable for all of us. Guyana is in many ways similar to India. You have similar storefronts, you have similar culture in many ways, but you don't have the congestion. India is quite congested, whereas Guyana is quite spread out. But you still do have interesting store signs. And it was nice enough for them to name a town after us while we were there. Dan tried to convince us that this bridge going into New Amsterdam was the highest elevation in all of Guyana, though he probably had other things on his mind as he was purchasing his wedding band. I can assure you that neither Dan nor this woman are actually in prison, and as you can see, Dan is quite excited and happy about his purchase, and he will celebrate with a Malta, which is a caramelized form of cough syrup. Or so most people think. On Sunday, John and I attended Nig Bible Church, while Todd and Dan were attending Firish and Chesney Bible churches. Both John and I were given an opportunity to share, and this is the church that most people from MBC are familiar with. We wanted to go to the beach, so Sean took us to Alness Beach. Not many people in Guyana go to the beach, and you can probably see why. But there are some good flat areas that would be great for games such as cricket, maybe even soccer or something else similar. But the roadways leading into the beach aren't very conducive to getting groups in there. We rode in a variety of different vehicles in our travels around Guyana. Unfortunately, if you're tall, this can be difficult at times and can be quite uncomfortable. This canteen outside the Non-Persad rice mill is run by Desiree, the housekeeper that the McAllisters had for many years, as well as second mom to Danny and Katie and Joey. She was very generous and we enjoyed our meal there very much. It would be too difficult to highlight all of the churches and people that we visited over our stay in Guyana, but one of these churches, Crabwood Creek, would be representative of many of the churches in the ABC. This particular church is the church closest to Suriname, and in their ministry they have a young, vibrant pastor and a ministry that is flourishing. Within walking distance of the church at Crabwood Creek is a community field. There are many opportunities for the church to get involved with athletic ministries. Here, they are playing cricket and volleyball. It was hard not to think of all the possibilities that could take place for ministry with these young men. Dr. John, who's been to Guyana 4 times, quickly found some young men that wanted to play and got involved. Guyana is a beautiful country. There's exceptional wildlife to observe. As well as beautiful flowers and trees. I also like to observe culture. There must be some very specific point where people shouldn't stand here. This may interest some of you. Coming up is the restaurant where Todd had rat for dinner. They might give it a fancy name, but it's still rat. For those that have been to Guyana before, this is a new site. This is the Demerara Bridge. Instead of taking the long ferry ride, you can now drive over the world's largest floating bridge. I had to stand on Dan's shoulders to get this picture. Here are just a few of the churches, people, and pastors that we met with along the way, as well as ministry opportunities that we were given as we went from place to place. We were scheduled to take a trip to Kukwane, but that had to be canceled due to unrest. So we spent our last day in Georgetown doing a little sightseeing and shopping, as well as relaxing by the pool.
Hey, Eric and I are here in Georgetown, Guyana, and for those of you who are concerned about our security, fear not, because we've got this great deadbolt lock on our hotel door. You can see how well that works. So we're thinking of doing the Pastor Steve method of securing our room and pull all the furniture out and pile it in front of the door.
Since we left earlier than anticipated, I think this even threw off our pilot, as he wasn't even sure which way to go.